Desperate civilians in Gaza lack food and water as warnings of Israel offensive mount. Houthi militia imposes new taxes on people in areas under their control. Syria returns Yemen embassy in Damascus to legitimate government after expelling the Houthis. Welcome to Yemen Today TV. This is the English news with me, Shazad Dilbey. Amid the continuous bombing launched by Israel on the Gaza Strip since last Saturday, large number of injured people are arriving around the clock through ambulances and private vehicles. This report has more details.
Medics in Gaza warned 1,000 could die if hospitals packed with wounded people run out of fuel and basic supplies. Civilians in Gaza struggle to find food, water and safety ahead of an expected Israeli ground offensive in the war sparked by Hamas' deadly attack last week. Israeli forces, supported by a growing deployment of U.S. warships in the region, positioned themselves along Gaza's border and drilled for what Israel said would be a broad campaign to dismantle the militant group. A week of blistering airstrikes have demolished entire neighborhoods but failed to stem militant rocket fire into Israel. Day 9 of the conflict has seen the Gaza death toll spike to 2,384 Palestinians and 1,300 claimed Israelis. Hamas and Israel continued rocket barrages and airstrikes as Washington intensified its diplomatic efforts, led by U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who is returning to Israel on Monday. The news follows an announcement by the Pentagon Saturday that it has dispatched a second aircraft carrier to the Mediterranean on a scheduled deployment for exercises in Europe. The Israeli military said it was preparing for an extensive campaign in Gaza and the implementation of a wide range of offensive plans, which include an integrated and coordinated attack by air, sea and land. The announcement read that the Israeli army battalions and soldiers are deployed all over the country and are prepared to increase readiness for the next stages of the war. Nearly half of the population of Gaza has been reportedly displaced since the start of the war a week ago. The Israeli army is also creating a 4-kilometer buffer zone from its side of the borders with Lebanon, in light of recent attacks treated with Hezbollah. Civilians near the northern border up to 2 kilometers away must stay in shelters.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs expressed its strong condemnation for the forced displacement of the Palestinian people from Gaza. In a statement, Yemen called on the international community, especially the UN Security Council, to carry out its responsibilities and take immediate measures to stop the military escalation against the Palestinian people. It affirmed Yemen's support to Palestinian people for a decent life and independent state. An official report revealed the displacement of more than 200 Yemeni families last September. The Executive Unit for the Management of Displaced Persons camps said 44% of these displaced families were displaced from Hodeidah and Taz.
Here in Yemen, a 9-year conflict has created one of the worst humanitarian and protection crises this world has ever seen. More than 21 million people, including 4.5 million internally displaced people, need humanitarian assistance. And nearly 71,000 refugees and asylum seekers are sheltering in this war-torn country that has seen its economy devastated and is experiencing climate shocks. As part of the humanitarian community and as the representative of UNHCR in Yemen, I'm proud that our teams and our partners are doing crucial work to aid those in the greatest need. And it's unfortunate, but the reality is that Yemen remains one of the most dangerous places to operate. And most recently, we have tragically lost a fellow humanitarian, all while serving humanity. Humanitarians should not be targets. They should be protected in doing life-saving work. We should not forget that most of our colleagues are nationals, whose lives are sometimes at even greater risk than international staff.
The Houthi rebels are using extraction economy to increase their financial resources despite the hardships people are facing. This report has more details.
The Houthi group in Yemen has approved amendments to a set of tax and customs laws. These amendments grant their coup-led council's head the authority to impose new taxes or increase existing ones. This move is composed to open the door for a new wave of levies on Yemenis at a time when approximately 3/4 of them are already in need of some form of assistance. Sources have indicated that as a result of the amendments introduced to tax, customs, and public finance laws, Houthi-controlled areas are composed to witness additional taxes and levies. These would be in addition to the illicit levies and fees already imposed at customs ports, established between governorates, as well as cleanliness fees, urban improvement charges, and local council levies extended to sectarian event taxes. Furthermore, the Houthis instructed the Finance Committee to continue discussing and approving these amendments. Politicians and activists in Sana'a have emphasized that these amendments will pave the way for overwhelming the population in Houthi-run areas with levies and taxes. In other news, the Yemeni government has condemned the Houthis for their abduction of the head of major teachers' union. The kidnapping comes amid a crackdown on a growing public movement demanding payment for public employees. The Yemeni Teachers Club said that armed Houthis in Sana'a encircled the residence of its chairman Abu Zaid al-Kumaim, who was later kidnapped. The club demanded the immediate release of al-Kumaim and the payment of public worker wages. In light of these developments, Yemeni Minister of Information, Culture and Tourism called on the international community, the UN and the UN Special Envoy to issue a clear and explicit condemnation and exert real pressure on the Houthis. Pressuring Houthis is meant to secure the immediate release of al-Kumaim and put an end to the systematic policies of impoverishment and hunger inflicted on Yemen's educational staff.
A government official revealed that more than 10,000 civilian casualties were recorded due to mines over the past years. The director of the National Mine Action Program in Yemen said the real number of victims is much more than what was documented, and that this number includes only those who were able to be reached. The Syrian authorities asked the militia representative to leave the country as soon as possible, noting that the militia's chief representative had already left Damascus a week ago under the pretext of treatment. This report has more details.
The officially recognized Yemeni government has announced that it received an invitation from the Syrian government to reclaim its embassy in Damascus, following the eviction of the Houthi group's representative from the premises. Yemeni Foreign Minister Ahmed bin Mubarak confirmed that the Syrian side informed the Yemeni government of the decision to hand over the Yemeni mission in Damascus to the legitimate Yemeni government. Mubarak pointed out that his Syrian counterpart informed him of this action, and the Houthi group's representative was asked to hand over the embassy building and leave. According to the Yemeni minister, the government is in the process of appointing a diplomatic mission to begin its tasks in Damascus soon. These developments come in the wake of the Arab reconciliation efforts led by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, starting with the recent historic Jeddah summit attended by Syrian president, which marked Syria's return to the Arab League after an approximately 12-year suspension. Mubarak pointed out that these positive outcomes are the result of meetings held with the Syrian side in both Saudi Arabia and Egypt, emphasizing Yemen's support for all Arab reconciliation efforts, reunification, and the resolution of conflicts. Yemeni political and media consultant sees the Syrian move as the beginning of a new chapter in the official relations between the two countries on the regional agreements. While there has been no official statement from the Syrian government, sources in Damascus informed that the decision to remove the Houthi presence is seen as an attempt to revive Syria's rapprochement with Arab nations.
Coming next in the news. Internally displaced students in Lash struggle to access education. Welcome back. Local sources reported that the Houthi militia is blocking dozens of cargo trucks between Sana'a, Amran, and Hodeidah. Drivers explained that the blocking of trucks caused the prices of goods to double in local markets and had a negative impact on the living situation of citizens. Doctors Without Borders revealed that the unprecedented increase in the number of measles patients in Taiz. The organization explained in a statement that the number of patients increased at least tenfold in 3 months. It stated that it detected more than 500 infected children cases in the hospital since last June. Yemeni farmers and a number of governors under the control of the Houthi militia are complaining of the increase in damage in their farms. They said these losses are due to the spread of the agricultural diseases resulting from the contaminated seeds. Informed sources in the capital, Sana'a, reported that the major disputes over seeds had erupted between Houthi leaders. An international network expected the food insecurity crisis in Yemen is going to continue until the beginning of the second quarter of next year. Media sources reported the Biden administration withheld tens of thousands of tons of wheat designated for northern Yemen in order to force the Houthi militia to ensure that aid reaches those who need it the most. Many problems are facing the students in Lahj, and the displaced people face double problems due to lack of shelter. This report has more details.
There are several reasons why the education of more than 300 students at the school for the displaced in Al-Mishkafa camp could be stopped. The most significant of them are the lack of resources for the educational process and of incentives for volunteer instructors.
The school lacks books, electricity and water plus the solar panels that have been damaged. We also need school supplies and school uniform. We have more than 300 students in Al-Mishkafa camp. There are more than 70 students who have dropped out of school and who cannot accommodate the classroom space. Students need a school uniform in addition to textbook. We coordinate with the school's administration, which coordinates with the education office in order to receive students who are not enrolled in the schools this evening.
Even though she lacks basic requirements, Marwa, a student who lives in the camp, goes towards her normal destination to school in the early morning. Similar to her, educational institutions struggle from a lack of support and attention.
I study in a school for displaced people. We lack school supplies, school uniforms, and money. Teachers teach us without books, and we cannot do assignments or study for tests without books. The only solution is to inquire from the teacher.
Due to the absence of educational requirements for instructors and students, the educational process in this school is unorganized and chaotic. Some of them later leave without buying a textbook, which is a genuine problem for students in Lahj governorate's displacement camps.
Here's a reminder of the main headlines. Desperate civilians in Gaza lack food and water as warnings of Israel offensive mount. Houthi militia imposes new taxes on people in areas under their control. Syria returns Yemen embassy in Damascus to legitimate government after expelling the Houthis. This is the end of the news. Thank you for watching.